Hello? All right. AI, you need to get smart fast. I mean, genuinely, practically smart. Because right now, listening all the time and trying to respond, you have to understand. And if you don't understand, then you're just an annoyance. I'd rather type than have to dismiss you when you stop a video in progress because you think I said, I'll put the phrase on screen. I didn't say that. So, dial it back, Google. Okay. I'm happy now. No, I'm not. I'm not happy, but I will smile and I will put on a pleasant demeanor. So, what's up? This is for day 4 this week, and the first 3 were 12s, and they were all going to be 12s, but we got thrown a bone. Today is going to be an 8-hour shift up in the freezing cold and bitter wind on the mountain, hauling guns around and digging shit out of frozen ice. And 8 hours of that will be, a mercy compared to day after day of 12 hours. And I was just talking in a video that's behind the paywall because, yeah, there are some that I can't put out. We're just talking about how this job, it's a cult. You know what? Well, all the stuff that I just said, I'm cutting out because it's about my employer, and I just don't want any pushback from them. So, moving on. Ah, I've been working long shifts day after day, and I live in a place with no privacy, and meditation is important to me. It's been very hard to get in meditations. Yesterday, I just did one at work on a break in a room that was loud. There was music playing, people were talking, and I just set it to 5 minutes, and I did my, a 5 minute version of my usual 15-minute daily meditation just so that I could maintain my streak. Now, I haven't descended to the point of just hitting play and then not even listening to it, to preserve the streak. There was at least a token effort. But meditation for me is clearly a coping mechanism. At the time of the recent breakup, which threw me into turmoil, my meditation practice had faltered because I was in a place where I had no privacy and very little free time. I was away from home, away from my familiar environs and symbols and habitual reminders. And I had started drinking more than I normally would because one of my roommates drinks every single day, starting from the moment he wakes up in the morning. And he doesn't want to drink alone. Well, my absolute first instinctive response to the psychological crisis that, descended upon me was don't drink. And I wish I could say to this guy, dude, get some therapy, get some drug and alcohol counseling. Our employer will pay for it. But no. Anyway, I mean, the guy's 51. I've communicated to him, look, there's no way I'm going to drink every day. I mean, now I'm not drinking at all, much to his dismay. But even before that, I was like, every day? Like, you want to come home at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you want to drink until like 3 or 4 every fucking day? Fuck that. No. But, somebody, oh, good, and there he goes, driving away. I can go back to the apartment to meditate and to edit these videos. It's been instructive for me because this guy cannot be alone with his thoughts. He drinks, smokes weed all day, every day, and he jabbers. And the stuff he jabbers about is absolutely inane. And the thing that kills me the most is when he gets up, drinks the beer, smokes the weed, he then puts the worst drug, not just into his mind, but into the whole room. He turns on local TV news streaming over the internet, and he'll watch one city's local news, and then he'll switch to a different city in California or Utah and watch their local news. Hours of local news every day. To me, this is the symptom of, I mean, my mother does this. She puts on Good Morning America and then just leaves it on that network all day long. I hate that shit. I absolutely hate that shit. I mean, I'm admittedly I'm too solitary, definitely lonely. I will freely admit to being lonely, but at the same time, I have a higher requirement for solitude, particularly mental solitude. And I mean, I gotta have it. That's a need. And when that need is not met, I get grumpy. I turn unpleasant, abrasive, to the people around me. Is there a point to this video? Yeah, there kind of is. The point is this. Richard C. Schwartz, IFS, he describes meditation not only as a coping mechanism, and for some people a coping mechanism is good. You need to have an arsenal of them, a bouquet, if you don't like the violent metaphor of the arsenal. But you need to have a toolkit of ways that you can handle stress and various other psychological afflictions. And then there are like the black pill people who say that cope, they just use the word cope, which is normally in English a verb. They use it as a noun, short for coping mechanism. Kind of like AI people who say the word compute and mean it as a noun. But for the black pill people, the idea that you would employ coping mechanisms means that everything is fucked up. Better just to embrace the black pill, embrace nihilism, be angry, and just resign oneself to a life of social, psychological, physical deprivation that comes from enforced celibacy and resentment. Resentment is the killer. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's justified. It does not matter if you can present your external circumstances, your objective circumstances in such a way that it seems like, yeah, you're really fucked. You really got the short end of the stick. Other people have it much easier than you do. Even if all that is true, dwelling in the space of resentment is destructive to you, destructive to me when I do it. So that's something I need to keep in mind. But meditation. Richard C. Schwartz, IFS, he says, among the people that he's treating, it seems like meditation is sort of this cult of coping, which the parts of the mind, which are not the self, but these other parts, which blend with the mind and sort of obscure the self, there are parts that don't want you to feel something traumatic that happened to you in the past, something painful. These parts have stepped in and assumed a role that they were not meant for, but they are there to prevent you from feeling something. Well, a mild meditation practice will do that. A mild meditation practice will let you put some distance between you and the things that irritate you. And it also allows you to see the recurring thought processes that keep you in an unhappy state of mind. Because as, what's his name, Andy at the Headspace. Andy at the Headspace app, he said this a few days ago, and it's been weird. Like, since the breakup, it's as if Andy knows my circumstances and he's putting out these daily meditations that are very specifically addressed to my situation. But, I mean, I think that just sort of speaks to the sort of universal nature of my situation. But Andy put out, I mean, he said in one of these, the intros to the meditation, he does like a 1.5-minute little mini sermon before each meditation. And he was just saying, look, a person can do something to you to make you feel bad in the moment, but for you to continue to feel bad about it day after day, week after week, possibly, decade after decade, you have to sustain that. You have to set up some recurring thought process which keeps reminding you of that hurt so that you can stay in that hurt place. And meditation can give you enough distance from that you're not bothered by it, but at the same time, you're not dealing with it. And in IFS, the idea that there are thoughts that arise that are just these transitory things that, your mind either produces or observes, but, it's ephemeral. IFS says, no, that's not some ephemeral thought. That is a part. That is a part of your psyche that is persistent. It has been with you for a very long time. It will be with you. Even if you figure out why it's doing this dysfunctional thing in your life, you unburden it, it becomes helpful, it'll still be with you. It is a recurring part of yourself. And that's where the IFS and the sort of Buddhist informed mindfulness meditation practice kind of part ways. But he does say some complimentary things about it. I'll put them up on screen. I don't have them committed to memory, but basically he says that observing your thoughts and getting some distance from them, understanding that they are not synonymous with you, is sort of similar, and it does some preparatory groundwork for the internal family systems model idea that no, these aren't thoughts, these are parts of you, but in getting some distance from them, you are unblending with them, which is to say there's a self, there's a core self, in each of us, and then we have all these other parts, and the other parts which guide us into these sometimes destructive actions, they blend with the self so that they are difficult, if not impossible, to untangle from the self. You can't distinguish them from the true self without some either meditation or some self-work or most likely some therapy. And I will say, I've been doing all the exercises in the No Bad Parts book, and when I start at these trailheads of impulses, sensations, emotions, and I try to trace them back to a particular part and say to that part, hey, what do you need from me? Why are you doing this? What are you afraid is going to happen if you stop doing this? I never get any answer. I have detected no parts to my psyche. I understand the theory that the notion of a unitary psyche is false, but that's the reality that presents itself to me moment by moment, particularly when I'm trying to find individual parts. It's not happening. It's a fascinating model for me right now, but that's all it is at this point. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. The other video, which is behind the paywall, was much more focused, but that's because I was complaining about something specific. That's not a helpful focus. That's not a unity that is worth sacrificing anything to achieve. All right, my friends, I speaking of coping mechanisms, I will say that I said to my therapist that I post these videos as a sort of coping mechanism because the feedback that I get from you folks is very valuable to me, and I very much appreciate it. And a lot of times it comes in at a time when I'm at work and I read it, but I can't really respond to it, one, because I don't have time, and two, because I'm on the cell phone, and being 54 fucking years old, I don't type on a fucking cell phone. I'm so ready for the era of the smartphone to pass and for some other interface to take its place. Now, that other interface will probably be equally obnoxious, but at least it won't involve trying to touch type on a screen that is flat and featureless, in terms of tactile response. That's not happening. I need a keyboard. So anyway, yada yada. Catch you later.